just realized that we have counted down to the start of our meeting. This is the San Carlos Computer Club. I am Scott Stimson, your host, your internal guest speaker for these meetings. We've been doing virtually, and I'll remind you that we are looking at starting or at the first of the year, after the first of the year, with in-person meetings. And I am interested in any suggestions on how we can accomplish that and what kind of protocols that we should be following. And if you've got a copy of the document, I see some people got disconnected and reconnected. I'll just stick a copy of that in our chat as well if you want to open up that document. At the bottom of that document has a protocols list that I started. It's got one thing on it at the moment. I encourage you to add anything that you might be concerned about for in-person meetings. But what I added was we will, at the bare minimum, follow whatever the federal guidelines are. We will not behave in any way in which an inspector could come in and say we're doing it wrong. So whatever those guidelines are that the feds have set for Mexico, at the bare minimum, we're going to follow that. And then
that's great.
And then if any of you have any of your own concerns, I think this is a good place to voice them. You don't have to voice them in meeting. You can just write them down anonymously, and we'll all take them to heart. I don't know what your concerns might be, whether you feel like we need to all be in masks all the time regardless, whether you think we need to make sure the windows are open or if we have to set tables apart. Just please dump all those concerns on this list so we're thinking about them as we approach an unspecified date yet, but sometime in January, the beginning of January is what I'm thinking.
I was at Tequila's once, and I think Jim said that they were there once. And I did sit outside, so that is not an option for internet out there.
So we'll definitely be looking at inside.
Yeah, and with the windows open and with our parkas on.
I think I'm good with that. By the time 10 o'clock comes around, I've already peeled off my parka, and I'm about to put my shorts on.
Not in Tequila's.
Well, that's good to know. Maybe the windows open will keep us warm.
Maybe. Are you going to keep starting at 10 instead of 9 like you used to?
Honestly, I haven't even gone to talk to Sylvia yet. That's something I plan on doing this week. I'm assuming that 10 still works, or that 9:15 still works. Would you rather do 10, Judy? Is that what that is?
No, that was a 9:15.
9:15
or 9.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So I will find out. I'm assuming it's going to be okay.
I would guess because there's never anybody there. It's
I really
empty.
have not spent any time in there throughout this whole pandemic. I don't know what their situation is like in there. But Bill and Cheryl were in there just the other day saying they had great internet, and that's what we need. Table space and great internet.
Right. Somebody's making noise. It sounds like a drill.
That's probably coming from my neighbor. Let me meet.
Yeah, tell him to shut it off. Go over there and say, hey, we're in a meeting.
So, Scott, I think it was CBS Sunday Morning this last Sunday.
Yes.
They had this gadget that was a 5-in-1 charger. And you pulled these little things down, and it was a USB-C. It was a regular charger for everything else. It looked very interesting. It was like, what was he called? The Tech Santa or something like that.
Tech Santa?
Yeah, our son has one it's a big dongle. It's long, maybe 4 feet long, but it has 4 different heads on it.
And they said 5. They were counting maybe the USB one. Yeah, so.
I'm trying to Google it right now just to get a visual of what we're talking about. these kinds of things have existed for quite a while. I'd be really interested in seeing specifically what's caught your eye. You said it was on CBS? CBS Tech
It's in
Sample.
Alex's truck.
Oh, here, 2021 holiday gifts from TechnoClaus, CBS News. Let me bring this up. So the only thing I would say about these is that you have a number of different ports that support different standards. And so the most important thing would be that it's supporting the standards that matter to you. Let me switch over to this article. This is totally impromptu. I've not read this at all. I'm just looking. I think I found the article that was being talked about. Look at that. Alarm clock mat. Yeah, that's what everybody needs. Mobile custom design card. In Charge X Max. That's got to be it. Why are there plants here? Oh, here it is. That's the cable. Is Judy still with us? Can you guys hear me okay? I'm hoping everybody can hear me okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
I can hear you.
Judy had a phone call.
Oh, everything.
I heard you.
Cool. Actually, I'm getting such great audio from everybody and myself right now that I feel like something must be broken. Like everybody's silent. There isn't a hum.
Did you find that guy that I was talking about?
Yeah, I think this is it. This is the 2021 holiday gift ideas from TechnoClaus. It's a David Pogue article. Yes. David Pogue is a well-respected tech journalist. Has really, really good information. Has been reporting for years. So this must be the cable that you were talking about. This one I've got on the screen right now. Can you see that? And so this would be a cable of... is that what you're talking about? It's got USB-C.
See, I can't see it. You aren't big.
I'm not.
No,
oh.
the one I was
it's
talking
on my
about,
screen.
it just has it.
Yeah, but Scott,
yes.
I'm on an iPad this morning, and I think Judy is too. And we can't pin you or make the speaker large. I can't change the view. So you're a tiny little square, and your screen is hard to see.
Well, let me go into present mode.
But
Maybe
that
that'll
is the
change
device.
It for you. Oh, you can make it out?
Yes, that was the one. And he opens it up and he shows all the different, whatever I'm talking about, charger ends.
Yeah, the different plug-ins, the different standards. From the picture, I can see that it's USB-C, USB-A, and FireWire, Lightning. $40. Whenever I pack a big Christmas trip, laptops, this cable. It's got 5 different ends. So this is a cable for Lightning, for USB, for micro, for cameras, and USB-C. So this is nice. I don't know this brand. The fact that David Pogue is recommending it, I think he's got good research, and so it may support everything that you're concerned about. But when I look at a product like this, we live in a world of fast charging now. And that is only possible through very specific USB cables. And so if you were concerned about using a 20 to 40 watt charger on your phone or your Macintosh, then you would want to research what that cable supported. If it was your standard 3 volt, 5 volt, 2 amp connector, or if it could support all the way up to 20 to 60 watts of power. You wouldn't want to rely on a cable to charge your computer if it didn't allow for that kind of wattage to go across it. Same with your fast charging cell phone. If your hope is to plug in, drop your phone in the corner at Christmas dinner and have it charged by the time you're done eating, you'd really want to make sure you had the right kind of cable for that. And that's where USB-C has become so confusing, because it encapsulates all these different standards. And everything needs to be of the same standard to take advantage of it. The charger, the cable, and the device have to coordinate for the standard you're concerned with for it to work correctly. USB-C data standards and charging standards can be there's spectrum. And so when you're thinking about carrying cables around with you, you should be thinking about the job you're expecting from the cable. That's all I have to say about this. It's very convenient to have ends that can change. Another place you'll see something like that might be on a USB flash drive. So you'll have a little flash drive. Just, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen these things before. But they sell them now where you could flip over the other side and maybe it would pop out a USB-C or it'd pop out a Lightning, so that you'd have more than one standard on it. And this cable is just a play on that. It's 5 different standards available to you from the cable. Cool in a pinch, but I probably wouldn't rely on it being my only cable. I have actually needed to charge a customer's Macintosh laptop with a lower powered charger, and it went fine. It just took forever. The Macintosh, and this is an Intel Mac. This isn't one of the new M1s. This is one of your traditional Intel Macs. One of the first ones designed with the USB-C, and I didn't have a charger that went up to 40 watts. So I just plugged it into my cell phone charger, which is like 3 amps. And it took a while, but it charged the battery completely like a trickle charge. And that's the thing that you need to be thinking about with this kind of stuff is how much time are you going to take? Will this support that? Better bring other cables just in case, in my opinion. Judy, I've got your article up here. Was there anything else from the CBS the CBS article that you thought we'd be interested in? I'm just scrolling through it now.
No, but if you click on that link, it does not open up that particular device that he was talking about.
Rolling Square Perk. Are you sure? It's here for $50.
Yeah.
1 in charge X. 1 in plus 1 in charge X. It's taking forever.
$40.
It's taken forever
It's
to come up.
It's $40, and it's a 5-in-1 charger.
Well, I think this is the same thing, isn't it?
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I'm still on the list. I'm a little scared to go into present mode. Let's see what happens. I'm going to present a window. Let's present this one. This is what I'm looking at. This is what it brought up. If you guys can, I don't know if you can see it yet. Here it comes. Not very impressive visuals. Oh, those are colors. No. You really can't make out what it is. You'd think they'd have an expanded view. It really, I mean, it makes more sense here if you go back and forth.
It doesn't look anything like what he explained. It didn't look anything like what he explained.
This right here.
Yeah.
1 in charge X, and this is in charge X max. You know what? That's not the same thing, is it?
No,
this is a 1 in charge, and the other one is an in charge X max. I wonder if they just linked to the wrong thing. Oh, and it's crowdfunded. Any device from any power source. Well, that's what they're selling. One tiny cable has 6 charging combinations. Watt ultra fast charging. Well, that's the kind of thing I was concerned about, is whether it supported those high wattage charges. In Charge X. Huh, I don't see a bunch of different products. I just see them this is it right here, isn't it? And they use magnets too. 2 magnets intersect in the cavity, preventing the 2 connectors from sliding open. Well-built cable. Look at that. Oh, there it is. Okay, I get it. That's cool. This is like every connector on a keychain. If you guys can see that, that's why they were concerned about specific colors. That seems like a decent. That's what's going on. Is it's all these different connectors in one, with a magnet holding it together, so that you can put it on like a carbon, or what are they called? Those D-clips, or your keychain, like shown here, to just have with you wherever you go. So next,
that's nothing like what he showed.
That's not what he was showing, huh? This
I
looks
don't
like,
think so.
this looks very similar to what he was showing, or at least what was in this picture over here. And the only difference.
Look. So he's opening them up. See him opening it up?
Yeah.
And there's a different charger there?
Well, I think that's what this is. I think these flip.
Oh.
I don't see the flip, though, but I think that's what they're trying to get at here. Because they're saying it's got 6 different connectors in it.
So what kind of a price are they charging for this?
This is what you were looking for, Judy. You see that? So each side of this cable can be modified. It can be USB-C to USB-C. That's what we see open right now. You can snap it closed. It can be USB-A to USB-C. You can snap the other side closed. It can be USB-A to FireWire or Lightning. I'm sorry, I get those two mixed up because they're the same thing, just one's newer than the other. And vice versa. You can do C to A, C to C, FireWire to C, because of it doesn't matter which end you plug into which device, so long as there's a connector. And I like that they're saying 100 watts, up to 100 watts fast charging. This is a real cable. This is a real cable. You could buy this cable, and you would know that you have covered all your bases.
But is it $39 or is it $49?
Well, on this website, it says $49.
And that's the one that it goes to, well, I don't know whether that's the same one, but.
Well, and what we're seeing is a really long
so it looks pretty
cable.
Handy.
I don't think that long. This is the max. This is what he's showing you. They've incorrectly linked it to the keychain. This is the max, though. If you can see that long cable, that's the one that you were referring to. It's a cable.
Right.
Both ends have a variety of combinations, just like the keychain. It's a long charging cable, though.
And that's the InCharge X site.
The InCharge X Max is the product, and the site is rollingsquare.com.
What is the power source?
Well, the power source
what is the power source?
The power source is not what they're selling. The power source is up to you. This is the cable that can support a variety of different power sources, and I think that's the point. I've just stuck the link to this website there into our chat.
Oh, good.
So you can go directly there. I'll drop it on our document too. And I'll make sure it gets into our post from today if anybody needs a reference back to it. Well, I don't know about all these other holiday gifts. You have nothing else from this that you would recommend? I'll stick a link to the article here.
No,
anyway.
but I actually thought that the alarm clock that you had to step on to turn off would be great, I suppose, if you worked. You can't push the snooze button. You actually have to stand on it for like 3 seconds or something. I don't remember what it was.
Oh, that's pretty good. Maybe
Does it turn off if you throw it across?
I was going to say some of us might need to put it in the bathroom. Get that far away from the bed. Very cool. I don't see Linda with us. She wanted last week as well. She was interested in this surge protector topic. Jim was telling us this morning he's looking at buying new iPhones, and what surprised me was the reason he's looking at buying new iPhones is to be able to carry, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, to carry digital vaccination cards with you as you travel. Is that correct?
That we like to do that. Carolyn has them on her phone.
On her phone, but you have an iPhone 6, and what is it that's not compatible to allow you to do that?
Oh, we couldn't download some tickets to a musical event downtown, and we're just starting. I just keep coming up against, that you have to have 13.
At least iOS
system.
13.
Yeah, and we're maxed out at I think 12.5.
I was going to say I was just looking at somebody's iOS or their iPhone 6. It was actually a sad story. It was one of the jobs I've done in the last week was to go help a lady that's been getting along just fine with an iPad mini and an iPhone 6, and she's been doing her banking, and she's been keeping in touch with her family and friends. She's been chatting and doing whatever, Facebook, all her stuff. And she's in the same situation you are, and I know that Cheryl's been in that position with her old iPad. You're just watching things fall out of compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one here, one there, and you're living with it, but as it gets longer in the tooth, it gets less and less usable as the device you bought it for. And what's very frustrating, the reason I say it's a sad story, is because she's on a fixed income, and she's not doing anything new. She's doing absolutely all the same activities she was doing before, but because she chose a mobile operating system as her primary driver, she now has to replace that. And because she's chosen the iOS ecosystem, she's not prepared to change it up based on economy. Like, she's not ready to go to a $200 phone, which could handle all her needs, because she's trained herself in iOS. She's 80 years old. There's no way that she's going to want to learn how to drive a brand new, completely different mobile device. It's such a pain.
Carol and I are kind of in the same situation that we have all of our things are Apple products, so we'd like to stay with it, and we just you don't want to go just one step up, because you'll just be obsolete in another year. So that's why we're trying to figure out how far we should go with this. But we've always used refurbished phones.
Yeah.
They're in a box and they're clean, and sometimes they're even right from Apple. But
that's a good value. In fact, there are stories on the internet of Apple asking for you to trade in your phone. I don't think they're interested in phones that are as old as a 6. It seems like they're interested in phones that are 6S or newer. But it's because they just don't have the phones. They're behind in millions of production that they thought they would be rolling out for 13. And the speculation is it's because of the supply chain. And those refurbished phones by Apple are really decent values from what people say. I think
we've had good service, like 4 or 5 years out of them.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
James, when we went to replace Bill's iPhone, of course they wanted to sell us the 13, the newest. But there's a jump, like 6S, it doesn't go to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There is a time when they change to, for example, buttonless. I'm very used to, on my 6S, a button similar to on my iPad, right? Bill's got the 11, and it, I think, is the beginning of the ones that are buttonless. So he had to learn some new swiping and ways to know if things were still open and stuff like that. But the learning curve, I think once you get to the minimum of the next kind of big change, you don't have to go to the newest, but make sure you get to the one that is of the next step up, if that makes any sense. And they were, it was sold as at a lower price. I think we paid $549 for it, another $49 to get the bigger memory. But you don't have to go to the $1,000 one. And we found the Apple guy. We made an appointment in Vegas to have a shopping spree, which is different than a techie talking to you about your products you already have. He was looking at what would fit our needs the best. And I highly recommend it. You make the appointment online at the Apple store. You go in and you have a personal shopper who is helping you. And he really listens to what you feel you're capable of learning. And it was a good experience.
Well, he'll give me a crank phone then.
What did you call that service? I hadn't heard that before.
It's called booking a shopping spree.
So I went to
the Apple store, the location I wanted to go to, and it said, would you like to book a techie or a shopping? It gave me the two choices, but it was the shopping one. And then while we were there, we made a techie appointment for the next day to help us with the techie, the stuff that we shopped for. So,
Well, that's great information.
What
I would like to,
if you're thinking of buying in the States or in Ontario, but I'd highly go to an Apple store with an appointment.
I'd just like to add that from what I know, the iPhone 6S is the bare minimum of what's compatible right now, and that means
that's what we have, but it's starting to fall off.
Wait, I was going to say you said the 6. The 6 is stuck in I think 12.5, like you said. The 6S, I believe, supports all the way up to the latest operating system. But what that means is that's the next generation of phone that will not be compatible. So when the iPhone 14 comes out, that's probably when the 6S is going to stop being compatible. And so
that was my question. Should we jump to the 10, or would it be?
And that was another point I wanted to make. Cheryl had said that Bill's is an 11. It was the first of buttonless. Just FYI, it's actually the 10 was the first one without a button. But the 11 was the first one that was really worth it without a button. And I think you should be going to a 10 or an 11 because those are great phones, both of them. And you should be basing it on price and storage, of course, because you can't add storage to these phones. You know that. And so you need to decide. And I like Cheryl's idea of just booking a shopping appointment and making it clear I'm coming from an iPhone 6, and really the only reason I'm upgrading is because I've used iPhones this whole time, and I need to get my vaccination cards. I'm losing convenience. I'm falling out of date, but I'm not looking for the best camera. I'm not looking at doing motion control stuff. I'm not looking at doing VR stuff. None of these extras appeal to me. I just want to stay compatible. And what's available there. That sounds like a great way to go.
So what would the minimum memory that you think we should be looking at?
Well, for me, a good judge of what kind of equipment you should get into is probably the equipment you're already in. Especially if you're not buying something to do something new, you're basically buying to stay compatible. And so you going from the 6 to the 10 or the 11 is going to be a dramatic jump in space. More than likely, you look in the storage of your phone. It's probably a 32 gigabyte phone. It might be 64. You would have gone out of your way to buy much more than that. You would have purposely bought much more storage than that in a 6. I'm trying to remember what the limits were on the 6, but the limits on the 10 I think are 32, and the limits on the 11 are 64. So the cheapest phone is going to have easily as much storage as you already have, and probably more.
And I do think we'll just try to repurpose the old phones just as music boxes or whatever.
Oh, you know what? I just brought it up. The iPhone 6 had 16, 64, or 28. So you might look in the storage under settings. If you go into settings and you type the search word storage, it will bring up the storage, and then it'll show you your iPhone storage and give you an idea of how much space you're already using. It'll show you a little graph that'll show you total storage, and it'll show you how much of it you're using up.
Yeah.
That was an easy Google search. I just did iPhone 6 storage, and it brought up, okay, and the 10, its lowest storage is 64 gigabytes.
Okay. Oh, so we'll have lots then.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm imagining it's quite possible you have a 16 gigabyte.
Yeah, I do. I just looked.
Okay, so the lowest 10 or 11 is going to be 64 gigabytes. If you look at you've looked at it, so what percentage do you think you're using of that?
I still got 7 gigs left.
So you're using almost 2/3 of it. So you can, if you're buying to stay compatible, if that's the reason you're buying, then the bare minimum 10 or 11 is going to be more storage than you can possibly use at this moment.
Yeah. I would have to.
For some reason, my math
things.
is evading me. Yeah, the smallest 11 or 10 is going to be 4 times bigger than that phone, and you're just barely using 2/3 of that phone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be 4 times that phone, and you're going to be using very little of it.
Right.
So then, knowing that the lowest of the 11 or the 10 would do you just fine, there aren't any other real considerations except for the screen size you want, whether you want a bigger screen or a smaller screen, and you're not going to know that until you're putting it in your hand or you're looking at it. There are some things you can do when we mail order stuff. You can find a pattern online and print it out, and you can cut it out and hold it in your hand to give you an idea of how big a phone you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So that's one way to deal with that. But since we're dealing with Apples and you'll probably go in for an Apple appointment, there's a good chance you'll just be able to hold a real phone right there in the store.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that Carolyn will want a small one for sure. And I like to be able to just pop it in my pocket. That's what I like about it.
Well, your other option, don't they still have an SE, which is going to be falling out of date? The SE is currently available as a 64 as well, and the SE is closer to those traditional iPhone sizes. They're not these really large iPhones, but a smaller phone, more like an iPhone 5. And you really can fit it in the palm of your hand.
Mm-hmm. So do the 10s and 11s come that size?
No, they don't.
But the 10 is a good size. I just opted to go bigger because I can't read it as easy on the 10.
There's another thing to think about with these phones too. The 10 is more durable than the SE. The SE's smaller. You can put it in the palm of your hand. It fits in your pockets easier. One of the complaints with the bigger phones is that they get dropped more. They're awkward. They fall out, especially women's pockets. They fall out of women's pockets a lot easier. But it's also a more durable phone. So when it does hit the ground, there's less likely of there being damage.
Well, so it looks like 10 is going to be it then.
Yeah, I think you're going to have like the 10 and I think it's the 10 and the 10 Max. I think those are the sizes. And the storage is the only other thing I think would make. Well, give me 5.6 by 2.8. It's a 5.6 inch screen. Oh, there's the 10S too. So there's the 10X, the 10S, and the 10 Max. I forgot all that. And they're called 10s, but they're referenced with an X.
Yes, that's right. And there's an R, I think, too, XR, whatever that is.
The X, you know what? The 10, you're reminding me. I think the 10 has a size that's very similar to the iPhone 6. It's the X where in fact, yeah, it was the X that they made the R the new smallest size, which is larger than the 10X and the 10S. They had the 10X, which was of the same size as an iPhone 7, I think. And the 10X Max, which was their larger size, and then the 10XR was in the middle, and that size is now the low-end size of the 11, the 12, and the 13.
So 10S is the small one then?
No, the 10S is the TikTok that they were doing for a long time. They would do a 5 and a 5S, a 6 and a 6S, a 7 and a 7S. So the iPhone 10S is the last of that iteration cycle, where they would put out a phone with the newest chipset at some point during their release year, and then 6 months later they would release the S version of it. And that would be in a refinement. All the bugs and problems they found with the iteration, they would fix on the next iteration. Like the iPhone 6 with tech people is really well known as having a connector problem. When you drop it too many times, the screen goes wonky. I mean, like, that's not fair to say. Every phone, if you drop it too many times, is going to have a problem. But there's a very specific problem that was remedied on the iPhone 6S, where they had a chip with space between it and the board, and it had play in it. And when it got jostled, it took a hard knock. It would break the solder wells, and that play would happen, and then you'd end up with this very random phone. And it could happen days after the shop. You could have just bought it, walked out the door with it working fine, dropped it on the sidewalk. Everything about it looks fine. Now you can't use the touch. Everything, or even worse, it was really random. It would work 80% of the time. And it was all about that, right? And so the 6S, they repaired that. And nobody ever talked about this. I'm familiar with this from techs that have repaired these problems. Nobody at Apple ever admitted to having this problem. But when the 6S came out, they had resolved that issue. They had put a buffer pad under that chip so that it couldn't break like that.
Perhaps it'd be good to look for the 10S then.
Well, I think so. That's been the rule of thumb for me, is that if you're looking for the refinements and improvements on the original of that TikTok, then the S is the one you want. And it really is reflected in price. So you'll see a price difference that's dramatic, like $100 difference or $50 difference between the two models. And your pricing is also going to be affected by demand, supply, and what's available, because we still are in the middle of the chip shortage.
Right.
And so there's going to be models that are just more abundant than other models, and they're going to price them accordingly to be attractive to sell.
Yeah, I don't think it's a buyer's market out there right now.
Well, yeah, I'm having to make decisions like that with a car right now. It's this car, do I get it fixed or do I sell it? And if I sell it, it's not replaced. The car market's ridiculous right now. If I sell it, I just take the money. There's no buying a new car.
Yeah, a friend of ours just bought a new hybrid RAV, a Toyota RAV, and she went and ordered it, and they said, "Oh, it's on. We're going to order it." And she rushed home and put hers on the eBay or whatever, not the eBay, the Craigslist, and sold it about 3 days later. And then she's still waiting. She's still waiting months later for her car because they said, "Oh, sorry, we can't get it for you." And it's just been back ordered ever since. And she kicks herself, I guess, for not hanging on to it, because she would have been able to sell that car for more now than she did when she sold it too.
That's what I found amazing when I got on and started looking at what my minivan was worth. I'm like, oh wow, if I was going to get any money out of this is the time to do it. But there's not enough money there to replace the vehicle, and so we'd just be without it. And that's the problem we're having to face right now, is just this. It's a crazy car market. I have a friend that tells a story very similar. Brand new pickup. I don't remember the model, just a big pickup. He's one of those guys, right? Big brand new pickup, and looking at buying it right off the lot, and he's going to have to wait months for it to be delivered. In the same marketplace, the pickup from last year is being sold used for $1,000 more than the new car. And when approached about it, the used car salesman is, yeah, but this car's here right now. Mm-hmm. You can buy it right now. The other car, you're going to wait months for it to be delivered.
Yeah, Ferraris have always been like that. Or not always, but usually like that. Because it's a year and a half wait, and you can buy last year's right now.
That's what Sonos should do, is they should just put a waiting list on, and people would desire them more.
There you go.
Well, has anybody else got topics for today's meeting? Anything we've got to talk about today? Something new that's happened? I've put a couple of news articles in this document. If anybody's jumped on since I posted the document link, I can post it again. One of these articles is about Google is she reevaluated their January 10th return to office. I've been following tech companies as COVID indicators because they have very laxed working environments where people can choose how they want to interact with other people, the spaces that they want to use. I like to think of tech people as being able to choose their kind of work environment. So if anything's flexible, I feel like they're the most flexible. And so if Google was able to put together what they considered a safe office environment for people to return to, and they have allowed people to return voluntarily, but they've been having this mandatory return date that keeps getting pushed. And when Omicron started making the news, well, they've pushed their date again. And so they were shooting for a mandatory return to the office date of January 10th, and now that's indefinite again. So they've gone back to their board to reevaluate when they're going to push a mandatory. If you ask me, and Apple's doing this as well, and Microsoft is doing this as well. If you ask my opinion, I speculate they're never going to mandatory office hours again. Given the social climate that we're in, I think that it's just over for mandatory office hours for the tech companies. Like I started with saying, they've always been the most flexible. I mean, these are the companies that had full kitchens with cereal and candy and sodas for their workers. They've always created a very comfortable, flexible environment. And right now, it seems like the comfortable, flexible environment is not being required to come into the office. And so in my opinion, where we are right now, they're probably never going to be mandated back to the office.
I have a question for Bill.
Go ahead, Chester.
Yeah, Bill, how long did it take you to cross the border?
Sorry, Chester, which border?
Where did you cross?
Which border?
Oh, the Mexican border.
Oh, the Mexican. We crossed at Nogales. It didn't take us any time. We just drove through.
Oh, okay. You have permanente then?
No. We stopped at El Cadones over by Yuma and walked over, and there's an immigration office there that's always open. And we got our FMN there. So we didn't have to stop at that 21. We just drove through.
Yeah, they say at 21 it's up to 4 hours at times.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people complaining about the border. Or that's not the border, I guess. I guess it is.
Well,
anyway,
Chester, when you say that number, you're talking about coming into Mexico?
Yes.
Yeah, I was surprised. My parents complained about a long wait trying to get into Mexico. It's the first time they remember complaining about a long wait coming into Mexico.
Yeah,
I came in on Thursday after being out for one day and drove right through. But I don't stop at 21 because I have a permanente, but that doesn't matter when you're crossing into Mexico. They just waved me through. And then I had a friend that got pulled over for an inspection, and she was in line for an hour before she got inspected. So
Yeah, there's two places. We have friends that came down, and at the green light, red light, customs, I guess they call it, they got pulled over and inspected, and they have a very old boat motor that they bring down. And for some reason, they decided that they had to pay duty on that boat motor this year. So they stopped and they did that. And then they got to kilometer 21 to get their FMMs. And I think they had ordered them and were just getting them stamped. You know how people do that? They order them online and then they get them stamped at kilometer 21. And I think she said it was 2.5, 3 hours wait.
Wow.
We came down before the Canadians, and like the 1st of November it was, and we waited in line 3 hours because of the fact that the place to get FMMs right at the border is closed now, and and there was several people in line that had gotten their FMMs online and had to have them stamped, and they had misinformation on them or incomplete information and had to go through the whole formality of filling out new forms. And so they were delayed.
I've had many different instances in the last 6 weeks. We've been to and from 3 times from here up into the U.S. The first one 6 weeks ago, I was in the process of getting my permanente, so I had a hunk of paper that said exactly what to do, and you had to turn it in at the border to fill out the FMM type thing that was free, saying you're in transit. And the person there didn't know how to do it. He spent an hour and a half on the phone before he would let me do this paper that was so simple. And of course, that backed up everyone. So the person outside who was regulating the number of people inside, was going, what the hell did you do? Because went from a 2-minute wait to an hour and a half because of me.
Jesus.
The next 2 times, you might want to know, going south to Mexico, you can no longer do the paperwork at the Mariposa exit. You must go down to 21. Going north, the Century Lane has now been moved. So it's, now you shouldn't say back, it's moved farther forward. It's not that well marked, and it's down the old railroad track that used to be open occasionally during the Christmas season only, but now that's the permanent thing. So if you go to the farther forward to where the Century Lane used to be, and I would say the hours
But that's,
would be,
so Dave, that's downtown though, that's not Mariposa. Right? That's only downtown for the
right.
Century.
There's only a Century Lane downtown.
Right.
There's both a walking and a drive-through Century Lane.
Hey, I'm curious, the boat engine needing to pay duty, it was because of the product, right? Because you're allowed, like, it's the holiday season, aren't you allowed like $300 of merchandise for each person in the car?
That does not always apply. It's $300 of personal items. If you bring down something like a pump, a generator, or anything like that, it's not considered personal property.
Okay.
It says
Also-
the Mexican border people who decided our 25-year-old 9-horsepower boat motor was taxable. Then a 3-hour lineup at kilometer 21 immigration. That's all the information I have. These are Canadians that own property down here and were unable to come last year. So I don't know how much goods they were carrying, but it's been 2 years since they've been down. So
Also,
Right.
on another note, I got stopped going north at the military checkpoint past Benjamin Hill before Santa Ana. And they made my passenger get out of the car. I had to drive over, and then I had to take the dog out of the car too while they searched. So that was unusual.
This is going north.
That's going north at what used to be the Benjamin Hill, which is farther.
Yeah.
But
Wow, I
Do you know
haven't
what
stopped
they
there in
went
a
there
long
for?
time.
Going south at the U.S. border, the U.S. people are checking far more thoroughly than they ever had going southbound into Mexico in the afternoons. It seems to start about 1:30 or 2. So make sure you go earlier if you're headed south.
on that one, David, when we came across, it was the very first time we've ever seen the American people there. We came through the Mariposa crossing at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and there were 2 custom officials, I guess they were. It's hard to tell what their uniforms were, but they were American. They watched us. We had to slow down to go along beside them. They obviously took a picture of the car. I don't know if they took a picture of us, and then just away we went. They didn't speak to us. They didn't do anything. They just looked us over.
They always take a picture of you when you cross the border.
Actually inspected my car there, and I have no clue why, because there was hardly anything in it.
Hey, I'm changing the subject. If you've been in our document, you might see that I stuck a picture in it that Bill shared with me earlier this week. This is an old ad from Radio Shack, and if you zoom in on it, the joke is everything in the ad is now available as an app on your phone. I put a link in the chat. If you click on it, it'll open up the picture. It'll
I
open
saw
it
that
up.
on either Facebook or Viva. I think it was Facebook.
You saw it on Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you that have not seen it, this is a pretty wild change in life over the last 30 years. When was this? This is back like 84?
That's why there's no more Radio Shack.
Yeah, this is Radio Shack. Everything on this 1991 sales page is now on your phone. 1991. I was selling this stuff at Radio Shack in 1991 or 1990.
How's our time going? We've gone past it, haven't we?
It's 9:56.
Yeah, it looks that way. We haven't gotten any meat warning yet. It's just a
It's
change.
the Christmas season. They're allowing us to meet as long as we want.
It's the
Christmas
giving
season.
season.
If we're changing topics, may I?
Sure.
This is my friend Raquel. Raquel is Idahoan.
Yes.
Hello, Raquel.
And,
Welcome to our group.
Hi there. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm always 10 steps behind and I learn everything the hard way. So I'm wondering first and foremost, does everybody in this group have iPhones? Because I'm a Samsung Android girl.
Oh, we're not limited to iPhones. There's a lot of us using Android. I use a Huawei phone. My family's all on Huawei's, and I've got some Samsungs around me too.
I have Android.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to learning and problem solving because I'm the techie for the family, which is really dangerous because my husband can hardly turn it on. And so it's the blind leading the blind.
But the one thing I wanted Raquel to share with you guys is her problems with her Fire Stick, because we bought our Fire Stick down, we plugged it in, and it works exactly as it did at home. Her experience was quite different this year.
It was terribly different this year, and part of it is we're new to Fire Stick, and we got it to work the last couple of years very well, in part so that we could get access to local news, and then we like to watch our Gonzaga games and movies and so on and so forth. And we got turned on to it by Cheryl and some other people. This year we came down and plugged it in, and it immediately, it hooked up fine. But then when we went to try to do our local TV, the local TV knew that we were out of the country. And it created all kinds of messes, which basically made it almost impossible to watch anything. We were blocked out of anything. So we had a gentleman here in San Carlos, and you're going to ask me his name, and I'm not going to remember it, who basically has for lack of a better word, he's kind of he's been a pirate of sorts. He's gathered all these.
You can't tell us anything we don't already know, Rocco.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, just speak openly. We live in Mexico.
I was shocked because basically he hooked us up on a parallel system, and for like $30 a month, I basically have everything I've ever had plus everything I've ever wanted. And that includes all the premium channels that I don't pay for because I'm pretty cheap. So my question is it necessary to pay $30 a month to whomever to get all these things, or can it be done a different way? Well, and the VPN was the problem. We had problems because we got the VPN, but the VPN said we were in Dallas because that's how we had it set it up last year. And I think the mistake we made was we tried to get our local Hulu, and the Hulu would not let us in. And then the Hulu, basically, when I went to customer service, they basically asked for, they basically got our, I think it's called an IP address. Mm-hmm. And they found out we were in Mexico. And they just said, you're defunct. And they shut us off. So
you think they've canceled your Hulu account?
I'm assuming that they know. I don't know that they've canceled my account, but they've not made it.
I would imagine that it's not available until you geographically verify that you're located within their service area.
Well, we were planning on doing that because usually what they ask is they ask for a zip code, and we give them the zip code for Dallas. This time they did not ask for the zip code. We put our code numbers and all that stuff, and then they sent us a link, and the link got our IP address. The IP address, of course, showed us we were on a Mexican internet line. So basically, that was the end of that story. And then the guy said, you can't do that from Mexico, and In fact, it's a breach of your Hulu contract. And
You were working with Hulu technical support at that point?
Yeah.
That was the guy you were talking to? So yeah, both Hulu, I've recently had this experience with some other customers. Both Hulu and YouTube TV use geographic location verification for your service area, and Hulu is really, really stringent about it. The YouTube TV, well, I've discovered you can sign up for it with a VPN and have access to the majority of their programming without having to verify your location. It comes to the local programming under YouTube TV. And it seemed like it would be the same sort of thing. You'd sign up for a service area, and what YouTube does is it wants you to use a mobile device to verify that you're in that service area. Yeah. And then it will open up those channels from that particular area.
Yeah, so I guess the long story short, it didn't work the way it used to, and this gentleman, and I was thrilled. Maybe $30 a month is too much, but for what I've got right now, the fact that we can, I don't have this kind of TV at home because I don't pay for any of those channels.
Right,
so I'm happy.
My folks use a similar service. I'm assuming this has got to be Scott Bailey's service.
It is Scott Bailey. Yes, thank you for reminding.
And my folks use his wherever they go. They plug it in wherever they are and use it. And whether they're in Arizona or Alaska or Mexico, they use the same Fire Stick to get TV.
Yeah, and that's what he was saying. It could be used even when I got it home. And I said, well, I'd love to think that could happen because that's cheaper than my Hulu and those other things that I have had.
The truth is that we all have lived through the fear of pirating, that generation of lawsuits and threats and shutting off internet providers. Not a lot of that kind of stuff happens anymore. Most anything in that realm doesn't reside on the consumers. It resides on the producers, the people that are making that stuff available. Right. And so it's a lot less risky. The most that you're looking at is a very conservative ISP looking and seeing that you're going somewhere that's on a list of places that they don't like you going to because it's considered pirating, and they send you a notice. But even that doesn't happen very often anymore. Mm-hmm. I think that you can feel comfortable.
It was a good short-term fix. It was a very good short-term fix, considering I spent days and days and days trying to work with everything I knew how to do out of my element. And all I wanted was my dang Gonzaga games.
and to address Cheryl's specific question, you can absolutely do this on your own. You don't need somebody to help you set up this account, and it is much cheaper than $30 a month. However, what Scott sells is helping you.
Is the service. Absolutely.
It's the service.
I pick up the phone, and I called him yesterday because I was having some difficulties, and man was there. And I'm thinking, I don't have to waste my time. It's well worth it. And
he works very hard to leave you with the impression it was worth it. When it goes out, he has answers for you. When you're having troubles, he's got answers for you. He'll come help troubleshoot your internet if your internet's having problems. Keep in mind, I do that too. But he'll do it. He'll do it for free because you're one of his subscribers. Right. And he wants you to have a good experience. Mm-hmm. And so he's really not selling. Yeah, he's really not. What he's selling you is somebody that'll help you with the remote control, somebody that will answer your questions when you have them. So that's what he's selling you is. It does. Like Chester said, that's the reason I let my parents do it with him.
Chester, I agree. I agree with what Chester just said. For me, it's cheap because I didn't have any of those stations to start with. I mean, I had what I had, and I had everything through Hulu, but I didn't have the Netflix. I don't have any of those accounts because of the cost and because we don't watch that much TV. So we feel like we kind of fell into a little bit of TV heaven here for a while, which is kind of cool.
Now you're going to start to watch much TV.
Yeah. now I'm going to see. Oh my God, how many things I have not seen for decades. They're saying, "Oh, there was this series." I'm going to never heard of it.
Hey, was that Fred asking about a website?
Yes.
The software that Scott Bailey sets up on a Fire Stick is called Radiosity.
Yeah.
And it goes with a service that's out there that you have to pay for online through electronic transfer. I don't know whether it's using Bitcoin or not, but there's some apparatus for paying them because they're outside the United States. They're probably in some Latin country. They're probably in some country where copyrights are questionable.
Radiosity.
Radiosity is the name of the application.
It's SITY, and not CITY. Yeah, yeah. So I'm very curious. I'm pretty much a newbie about technology. It's my job to make it work because, like I said, I have a husband that doesn't know much of these kinds of things, and he just likes to have it work.
At this point, I should probably tell her that this is going on a YouTube and that at any time he might stumble upon it.
My husband? Oh, he knows that. He just said take care of it.
He might be one of the 15 viewers we get annually.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll warn him. Yeah.
Well,
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to learning more about my devices instead of having to show up at a store and having them teach me how to do something that I used to know how to do, like screenshots used to be 2 buttons, and now I wave my hand over the top of the phone, which how I'm supposed to know that I don't know. But
talk about a perfect example of changing ecosystems. I was talking before about somebody with an iPhone that has to buy a new iPhone just to keep doing what they're doing. And the reason is because she's just been trained in that ecosystem. That's a perfect example of differences. You said you wave your hand over your Samsung to take a screenshot. My Huawei, you do a 3-finger drag across the screen to do the exact same thing. You couldn't move from your phone to my phone and know what you were doing. You'd have to learn how to do it on my phone, even though they're both Androids.
I can hardly move from my phone to my phone. So moving to your phone's a whole different
well, Raquel, it's a joy to have you with us. Everyone is welcome. We welcome all tech enthusiasts. You don't have to have any kind of tech background to be here. And as you can see, we're agendaless, unorganized, and willing to talk about just about anything. So I don't know how much help you're going to get or knowledge, but you will hear COVID updates and complaints about services in Mexico, as well as...
You'll be entertaining.
We'll try to be as entertaining as we can be, and hopefully we'll be doing it in person within a month.
In terms of entertainment, we're into Billionaire. Has anyone watched that?
Billionaire? No,
Billionaire.
I'm not familiar with it. This is a TV show?
Yeah, no, it's a series.
A series.
It's a series. It's 5 seasons.
Which
I've never even heard of it. That's your recommendation for today, Chester?
The number one guy's district attorney in New York, and he's in war against one of the billionaires who is running a very risky investment firm. So it has a lot to do with cheating and with suits, and it's very interesting. I enjoy it.
Is it on Netflix?
No, I'm picking it up on DirecTV, but I'm not quite sure if it's on Netflix or one of the others.
Billionaire.
Yeah, it wasn't Netflix. It was
Billionaire. Yeah.
And by the way, it's based on a true story, loosely based on a true story.
To some extent.
Yeah, the DA.
DA.
No, the U.S. attorney. I can't think of his name right now, but if I could, you'd recognize it. And the billionaire, I'm old and forgetful, and I can't think of his name either, but if I could, you would recognize that name.
Okay. United States Attorney Chuck Rhodes.
Yes.
Rhodes?
And it's called
Don't know.
Billions, you said?
It's just called Billions, according to this thing.
Oh,
Billions
Billions.
is an American drama television series. Series premiered in 2016. Hedge fund manager Bobby Axelrod.
Yeah, that's the show.
Axelrod and United States Attorney Chuck Rhodes, maybe?
Rhodes.
Rhodes.
Chuck Rhodes. It's fast moving, a lot of characters come and go. You know,
Looks interesting.
yeah, it's very good.
Sure. What does it seem to be on? Like, is it on Prime or what?
Well, I'm picking it up
Probably get it.
TV, so I'm just not sure where else it is.
Scott, what's our site where we check to see what's on? Is it called Just Watch?
Yes.
Yeah, to see where you can watch it. Yeah, in fact, what I find to be the most effective is to put the title in a Google search with the word Just Watch. Just Watch is one word. That's the website. And Google will take you right to that page.
Destroyed like 6 giant balloons.
Is that the birthday girl we can hear in the background?
It's not my house. Sounds like somebody's grandkids are out there.
It was James and Carolyn.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, again, we're unorganized, agenda-less. I've got some more news topics, or we could go just into recommendations. It's kind of that time in the meeting, isn't it? Because we're starting to hit our 1 hour mark and winding down. Does anybody have any things we should be reading, watching, enjoying online, listening to podcasts, websites, applications that are useful? Recommendations are open for anything you would like to share with the rest of us. And that's your cue to shout out anything you got.
Actually, Scott, I got a quick technical question.
Oh,
Can
sir,
you call me after the show is over? I've got a problem I'd like to have you help me with.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
We can talk afterwards.
Appreciate it.
I will. I'll throw a name in the hat for today's recommendations. If you guys aren't aware of this, there has been Hello. What do you got, Raquel?
Hi, it's just Raquel, and I'm going to have to leave for this after this first hour. But I want to tell you how delighted I am that I've been invited, and I'll see you next week.
Please make sure I get your email address, and I'll send you an announcement before the meeting starts with links and details.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to just give it to you now while we're here?
Type it. We'll type it.
Yeah,
We'll type
or-
it into the chat.
That's a good idea. Yeah, let's not
Okay,
dox
thank you
each
all.
other any more than we already do.
Okay. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And it's a joy to have you with us. Anyone's welcome to join us. So if you guys aren't aware, Netflix has had they just started their 3rd season of the reboot of Lost in Space. If you're not aware of it, it is just a retelling. It's a whole reimagining of the Lost in Space concept from the old TV show. And the 1st season was amazing, something new that we'd never seen before. The 2nd season kind of left us, like, it was good, but compared to the 1st season, it just wasn't the same. Well, this 3rd season just started, and we're hooked on it again. And so we've been watching through it where we were binging it until we had to go to bed the other night. It's a very interesting twist in their story. And if you're into sci-fi, I recommend Lost in Space on Netflix.
Okay.
But I think that's the only one I've brought to the table today. Does anybody else have any recommendations they'd like to add? These recommendations.
As I understand it, you're planning on meeting personally at the beginning of the year, which I assume those of us not in San Carlos would not be able to participate.
Well, Chester, I'm thinking of you and Fred specifically. I'm trying, and Jim, of course. because of where your mutual locations are. I am trying to come up with a way that we can, I can continue to do what we're doing as a virtual meeting, but in person as well. And so I'm hoping to have a solution to that. This month is where I'm really exploring how we're going to do that. And it may be
able to do it.
It may start out being a very, Paul, I'm sorry, I need to mute you because I'm hearing myself come across your speakers. I'm hoping that even at the end, Jim, I got to do the same thing with you too because I'm coming across your speakers. I'm hoping that it will become more refined, but even if we just have to start with somebody in the room with a phone that's casting the meeting so that they're paying attention to who's online and presenting us with the questions. I'm hoping to have something like that. At the very least, I'm imagining a phone pointed at the meeting in person that you can watch, and then I need to find some way to host you in the meeting, like a screen that your presence can be on, some audio that can be heard in that meeting. So it'd be
well,
like
I certainly wish you good luck in your endeavor to figure that out, because I'm frankly just too old to come back to San Carlos and participate.
Well, I'm thinking of you, Chester, as I'm trying to come up with these ideas. I'm really limited by the amount of technology I have at my disposal. And so I think it's going to start out being a really shaky experience. But I think as we growing pains, as we continue to try and do it, I think it'll get better and better. Fred, you wanted to say something?
A comment. I've listened to some of them when we were doing in the group where you've recorded it, and people would ask a question and you'd hear mum, 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 and you'd answer yes. If you would repeat questions when they're asked that are going to be recorded, because as big as Tequila is, you lose.
It's a great suggestion, Fred.
Yes just does not.
Every time I don't repeat the question, it's because I've forgotten to do it, because I know exactly what you're talking about. And our recordings in Tequila's was really inferior compared to what we're able to do in a virtual meeting where everybody can hear each other, everybody can see each other face to face. I really like this interaction. I think it's much more effective than in person. But I also understand that the in person brings a whole different kind of value to what we do. And so putting a hybrid together really, really matters to me. I'm imagining something like in the long run, like some workstation, like some screen and a speaker that sits like one of the members at the table. And so that the virtual people would appear like a grid off on one side of the table where people are like another guest. But it requires hardware to do that, to pull that off, and then it's synchronizing microphones. And Fred, what will be funny is that even I can't imagine being able to mic so that we can hear everybody at the table. So I'm going to have to do repeating. That's one of the techniques. But the people that are virtual will come off being recorded the best because it's this kind of environment. If you listen to our recordings over the last 2 years, they're awesome. They're exceptional compared to what we were doing in Tequila's.
You can have the meeting at Tequila's with everybody looking at their portable computers.
Yeah, that's another thought I was having as well. We could have everybody on their mobile device, all their microphones muted until they wanted to ask a question, and they could hit the unmute, ask their question, and then remute, and that would result in really clear audio like we're doing right now.
And observing through the years that at Tequila's there's always been a larger crowd than we have here in this particular venue.
Yes.
The other thing is how we would listen. I know that Bill and I have hearing aids that Bluetooth to our devices. So if we were at Tequila's and we had our iPads or our mobile devices on and we could see everybody, we would be listening through our devices as opposed to listening to the person live.
You know, Cheryl, you say that, and all of a sudden I flash back to this one idea I had, where what we could do is we could do social distanced islands of tables, and couples, people that are together, could sit at tables together around a computer, like kind of like a Trivial Pursuit night at the bar.
Yes,
right?
And each table's it's your turn to speak, and you're muted until we, recognize that table or that
That's
location.
Right. And then we run the whole meeting through my computer out onto online. Everybody's in a Google, so that I actually find that to be a really appealing idea. It would require all of us to commit to being responsible for bringing some equipment. I couldn't possibly have that much equipment. But it would require, like I'm planning on being an island in the computer club meeting, so I'm bringing my laptop, right? We would have to have that kind of commitment from people so that we would know how it was going to lay out. But I think that would be a really fun way to play with this idea. It can also go as far as the what you were saying about the hearing aids, the Bluetooth. You could be getting your audio right through the computer, and so we wouldn't even be yelling at each other anymore. We would be having a Google Meet, but we'd be doing it in person in a large room with social distance tables. You're muted.
Sorry. Speaking of which, we ran into Mike and Kathy Miller. Mike Miller, and I see he sent a reply when you said that we would be meeting in person. He is so looking forward to being at Tequila's and able to see everybody. For some reason they don't want to log in at home, but he's willing to come to Tequila's and looking forward to seeing everybody.
On that,
we also saw Jim at the market. Jim spelled, I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah. Big Jim.
Yeah.
I call him Big Jim because I always pronounce his last name wrong.
Okay. But I always call him Big Mike, so it's hard. But anyways, and Big Mike is bigger than Big Jim. So anyways, we have Mike and Jim that are here in San Carlos. Looking forward to seeing everybody.
Well, we've got to bring this to an end, but I got two more things. I just want to say, last night I saw Ray Mahoney at the tree lighting Christmas ceremony there at Colibri, and she's just as excited to get back into in-person meetings once all the details. Can't wait till it can happen. So that's three here locally that are not with us now and want to be with us in person. And I also want to just shout out a happy birthday to my daughter. Today, she is 14 years old. We started the morning with songs and presents. Thank you. And we're pretty proud of her. I am the father of mature teenagers now. I mean, not in spirit, but in age.
But how can that be? You're our most immature member.
That's right. Hopefully, if they follow their old dad's example, they will be immature for their entire life.
Well, you wish her a wonderful birthday and thank her for her entertaining us throughout some of the meetings.
Speaking of which, we did our intro on the way to the Christmas tree light, and she's very humorous in it. So take a moment and listen to the audio. It's not on the video. Listen to the audio podcast of last week's meeting, and you'll hear Bibiana and I having one of our crazy conversations introducing the San Carlos Computer Club.
I hear if you turn 50 and you haven't grown up, you don't have to.
There you go. All right. On that note, you guys have an awesome week. I can't wait to talk to you already next Tuesday. 10 o'clock, we'll meet again virtually. If anything changes, I'll get a hold of you beforehand. Until then, tech on. Have a great week. Adios, everybody. See you, Paul.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, that was the San Carlos Computer Club. Again, I'm Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions. I run a computer business located in San Carlos, Sonora, and I do much remote work as well as on-site work. I do a lot of work right from this desk. I do web work, I do repair work, I do troubleshooting work, I do server work. If that sounds like somebody you need, I can charge you a reasonable rate because I can sit right here in Mexico and fix your problems. So if you need a computer guy or you think I could be your computer guy, just reach out, get a hold of me, send email to scott@internationalcs.net. You can call me. I'm in the country. I've got a cell. It's a country code 52, area code 622, and the phone number is 855-8299. That's my cell. I do business through it all the time. Please feel free. If you don't get me on a first ring, please leave a voicemail. It is voicemail. If you're an English speaker, I can't do anything about the Spanish message saying, please wait for the message to leave a message. But that's what it's saying. It's saying, please wait, and a greeting, and then after the greeting, you'll be able to leave a message. I'm bilingual, so you can leave it in Spanish or English, and I will get back to you as quickly as I can, and we will solve your problems, because that's what my business is about. It's about solving computer problems, finding solutions to your computer needs. Anyway, this again is Scott Stimson, International Computer Solutions. Oh, and if you like what we do here, check us out. We've got a website. It's scclub.org. Everything that we do in terms of the computer club is, at the moment, everything is free. And we've got a YouTube channel. You can get there easily by typing youtube.scclub.org. We do book recommendations and movie recommendations and TV show recommendations. Check out our website, scclub.org. Until next Tuesday, you guys have a great week. Tech on.